Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Hopefully this is my last video about this topic of the crescent moons. I have already made 2 other videos about it, but there were some comments, some in agreement, some in disagreement. And so I really wanted to make this last and third video to put an end to this conversation and also make it clear to everyone who is truly following the Quran that there is absolutely no crescent moon observation in the Quran. There's no evidence of it, and there's actually no even hinting at it in the Quran either. So without further ado, let's very quickly take a look at some of these topics. We went through this verse number 189 of chapter 2. This is the verse that the worshippers of Akbar and the priests of Akbar utilize and have been utilizing for the past 1300 years to justify worshiping the moon and looking at the crescent moons and determining the number of the months, which is always inaccurate, by the way, and so on and so forth, as you're all aware. So, but the verse actually describes that for us. It says, they ask you of the crescent moon. Yes, so they have, obviously this is what they have translated as crescent moons. And if you have watched the previous video, you know, the previous 2 videos, you know that is not accurate. And then it says, قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ. Mawaqit has been translated as measurement of time. Again, is inaccurate. So let's look at mawaqit. Last time I discussed mawaqit. Now this time I want to show you several verses in the Quran, because some of the brothers, I appreciate your comments, but I just want you to see that some of those comments are not supported by the Quran. If what you are saying, if what you are believing is not supported by the Quran, then you are following a hadith. Now, either you are following hadith of Bukhari, hadith of Muslims, or you are following your own hadith, or you are following the New Age hadith. So you have to always double check yourself and confirm your ideas with the Quran to make sure that the Quran is actually supporting your ideas. Otherwise, there is not really much difference between following our own hadith or the hadith of Bukhari or Muslim or hadith of someone else, a YouTuber or anything like that. So let me share those verses with you. Okay, first verse I would like to share with you is verse number 142 of chapter 7. It says, وَوَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلَةً وَأَتْمَمْنَاهَا بِعَشْرٍ فَتَمَّ مِيقَاتُ رَبِّهِ 40 لَيْلَةً. So Moses completed miqat of his Lord for 40 nights. So what is the miqat here? Miqat is basically that appointment. It's kind of like a date. It's like a place where Moses had an appointment with Allah. So Moses went to this place on top of Mount Sinai for his appointment with Allah, right? So keep that in mind. The second verse I would like to discuss with you is verse number 50 of chapter 56 in the Quran. It says, لَمَجْمُعُونَ إِلَى مِيقَاتِ يَوْمٍ مَعْلُومٍ. It's like all of you will be gathered in the gathering place of that well-known day. The third one that I would like to discuss with you is verse number 38 of chapter 26, and I want you to pay attention to this. So it says, فَجُمِعَ السَّحَرَةُ لِمِيقَاتِ يَوْمٍ مَعْلُومٍ. It's basically the story of the Moses and the magicians, right? It says, and all the magicians, فَجُمِعَ السَّحَرَةُ. It means the magicians gathered together for لَمِيقَاتِ يَوْمٍ مَعْلُومٍ, for the gathering place or for the appointment of the very well-known day. And this is the verse that we discussed before, verse number 17 of chapter 78. It says, إِنَّ يَوْمَ الْفَصْلِ كَانَ مِيقَاتًا. As a day of judgment is a gathering place at an appointment time. Just like for the magicians. What was that date for the magician? If you remember the story, Moses and Pharaoh had a conversation. Pharaoh said that, okay, let's make an appointment. So then Moses says, what day? And that conversation went on that, okay, let's do it at the day of Zina, or the day of adornment, when all the people gather at noontime, during daytime. So it has nothing to do, again, you see miqat here, in none of these verses, miqat has anything to do with crescent moons. Nothing to do with crescent moons. So basically, and in that miqat, at the time of Moses, so all the people, all the magicians, Pharaoh and his palace staff, and also Moses and Aaron, they were all gathering. So that was a miqat. Is it clear? I want you to understand that was a miqat. So that's what a miqat is. So verse number 143 of chapter 7, again it says, وَلَمَّا جَاءَ مُوسَى لَمِيقَاتِنَا, when Moses came for our appointment. It's kind of like a date. You go on a date with someone. So what do? You say, okay, I'm going to meet you in the mall, at this store, at this certain time. So that's what it is. It's a miqat. You are going for a miqat. Now it could be for one person, it could be for 2 million people, or it could be for entire mankind, as it's supposed to happen the day of judgment. And then verse number 155 of chapter 7, and again this is really interesting, I want you to look at this. It says وَاخْتَارَ مُوسَى قَوْمَهُ سَبْعِينَ رَجُلًا لَمِيقَاتِنَا. It says Moses chose, وَاخْتَارَ means chose, وَاخْتَارَ مُوسَى means Moses chose from among his people قَوْمَهُ سَبْعِينَ رَجُلًا, 70 men for our miqat, for that gathering place at an appointed time, for that appointment, for that gathering place that was supposed to happen at an appointed time. So Moses gathered them together for that miqat. So again, miqat is when all these people, Moses plus 70 men from the Israelites gathered together, that's a miqat. And then verse number 40 of chapter 44, again the same thing. إِنَّ يَوْمَ الْفَصْلِ مِيقَاتُهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. Day of judgment is a miqat for them, for all of them together. What does that mean? It means that all of us, you, me, everyone, Prophet Muhammad, from Adam, who was the first human being, to the last human being, who I have no idea who that person is, we are all going to gather together in the day of judgment, and that is a miqat. We all gather together. We're all together in the day of judgment, and then Allah is going to judge us. Hopefully this is clear. There should not be any, this is all the instances of miqat. There should not be any questions in your mind about miqat. So what is a miqat? Miqat is a gathering place or an appointment place at a specific time. That's what it is. That's a miqat. Nothing more, nothing less. Quran is very clear on that. So once again, very quick overview. 7:142, Moses finished the miqat of his Lord. 26:38, the sorcerers gathered for the miqat of the well-known day. 7:155, Moses chose 70 men for the miqat of his Lord. The day of judgment, again, is a miqat. So what is a miqat? Again, one more time, I just want you to remember this very well. Miqat is a gathering place at a specific time, just like a date or an appointment. So one more time, back to the verse, says the answer to what is, they ask you, they inquire you about al-ahilla is, what is that? So you should know this very well right now. It starts from here. They are, ahilla are, so I'm going to just cross this out, gathering places at appointed time for the people and for Hajj or for pilgrimage. Is that clear? This should be very clear. So gathering places at appointed time for the people and for Hajj. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a graphic that I shared before, and right after that I'm going to go back to the meaning of ahilla, and I'm going to show it to you from a dictionary, from a very well-known dictionary, what it is. So this is the graphic I shared with you last time. It's my drawing. It's horrible. I know. It's just for you to have an idea. So these were mawaqit. What were these? These were gathering places where people from all around the world, all around the region, they would come up in, the pilgrims would come up in these caravans with camels, with various means that they had, and they could not come to the city because the cities back then were really small. They didn't have capacity for all these people. So we are talking about tiny cities. People had houses beside each other. They did not have hotels like we do, or motels, or any of those things. So people had to literally camp outside. So remember, people had to camp in these places. And at this point, these are technically the Hajj. After they camp here, the Hajj is the start. You go into the state of Ihram. What does that mean? It means you have to keep clean. You have to avoid doing bad things and saying bad things, fighting, arguing, all these things, because you are in the state of Ihram. And Quran makes it very clear for us and says that when you are doing Hajj, certain things, you should not be doing certain things, like you should not be hunting and all those good things. I'm not going to go into that. So basically, these are starting points for Hajj. And then from here, they would basically, in the mornings, they would go perform their Hajj, stay there, and then they had sacrifices. They would eat their food there, and the evenings, they would come back and sleep here. So in the mornings, they would go, they would do Safa, Marwa, they would do the Kaaba, they would worship, they would praise, glorify, and they would come back. Again in the morning, they would go to Arafat in the next day, they would worship, they would stay there, they would eat food because they always had sacrifices over there, and they had food, so they would eat and they would come back. So this is what mawaqit is. And so let's see in if a current day dictionary supports it, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you, and I think you're going to really like what you see, and hopefully this topic will be closed for you forever. Okay, this is the root of halla. So and this is where you get the word halal. Again, as you can see here, this is the root, and this is halla. So and then you can also see the word hilal and ahilla here as well, but they're all from this root. Let's see what it means. Halla, initially, this is what it means: to appear. This is the original meaning of it: to reach its season, to start. And then the dictionary goes on to give us some example. It's the early ripened melons started appearing on the market. I'm not going to read the Arabic for you. Please, I zoomed in so you can stop the video. You can read it yourself. So it's basically halat bafire. So basically they started reaching on the market. The other example that it gives us is disasters befall us as soon as you show up. So again, the root is used to mean show up here as well. Another example that it gives us is welcome, O month of Ramadan. Your crescent has appeared. Halalaka halla. It means your present started, has appeared. So this is why they call with the moon the halal that's being used. Is because this root originally what it means is that when you appear, you reach, you start something. So that's what it means. It also, as I mentioned in the Quran, what it means is that when you start calling or a food or a provision of Allah, you introduce it, you call it, you proclaim it, or you announce it for anything other than Allah, or for anyone other than Allah, that food becomes basically forbidden or haram. And it's because that food, you're starting that food for other than Allah, that food is basically appeared and is proclaimed and is announced for other than Allah. And then you also see the halal that comes from the, but for the halal, interestingly, again, because it's the culture, it's been like hundreds of 1300 years, The only thing that they are talking about is the crescent moon. But we go further down, and you see another example of this root that is used for istahalla. And what does that mean? What does that mean? Again, to begin, to start. So to begin, to start. So for example, the example that it gives us is that he started his speech with poetry. So started his speech with poetry. And again, the other example, another derivative of that is mustahal. And again, mustahal means the beginning of something, the start of something, introduction of something. So the beginning of something, start of something, introduction of something, you're beginning something. And so that's what it means. So now let's look at this again. So my question, I'm sharing this with you again. What do you see here? What is this? What are these camps? What are these mawaqit? What is this? So this is one miqat. This is miqat number 1. This is, for example, this is hypothetical. So this is miqat number 2. This is miqat number 3. This is miqat number 4. So what are these mawaqit, which is the plural of miqat? What are these? These are the starting points of Hajj. So when you camp here, far away from the city, this is the starting point. This is the introduction. This is the appearance. So these are the starting points for Hajj. Is that clear? So, and obviously if this is the starting point, there's going to be some dedication, some assignments. People are going to, it's a big operation. So there's going to be proclamation that this is starting point number 1, because they obviously don't want to overflood the Kaaba. So it takes some collaboration, some coordination. So I just want you to keep that in mind. And now let's go back to the meaning of ahilla. So ahilla is the plural of halal. So what is halal? Halal is basically it's the point of appearance or introduction and starting. It's a point of appearance, introduction, and starting. So it was also announced, named, and dedicated for the pilgrims and their caravans. So these points were announced. So everyone knew that the caravans from, for example, Syria or Sham would stop at that miqat or that halal, and the caravan from Yemen would be gathering in the southern halal or miqat. So, and the caravan from the east, from the Iraq and Persia, they would be stopping at certain points. Again, I don't know these exact points, but this is what halal or ahilla in the Quran means. It's so clear. It's so clear, brothers and sisters. It's so clear. There is nothing to guess. It's completely Quranic, and it's 100% for pilgrimage, and that's why the Quran says mawaqitu linnas wal hajj. These are basically gathering places at appointment time for people and pilgrimage. So that's what it is. These are basically what is ahilla is the starting point. People gathered in these places, and from there the process of Hajj would start. As soon as you are in that place, as soon as you are in that gathering place that has been announced and proclaimed for you. Let's say I am coming from Syria, for example. I'm coming from Syria. There's a gathering place for my caravan that has been announced and has been proclaimed, that has been dedicated. So I would go to this gathering place. That's the point. That's the starting point for me, for my Hajj. So as soon as I settle down in there, I start my Hajj. So that's my miqat. That's my halal. That's my starting point. It has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the crescent moon. Nothing. You don't find any evidence in the Quran, in the Torah, in the Bible Look for in the Bible. You don't find any example in any of the divine books of Allah that a prophet, a messenger, a holy man ever went outside and observed the moon crescent and determined the beginning of the month. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. You don't find any. Give me one example, one instruction or something from a holy person, from a prophet of Allah, from a messenger, in any of his books that instructs people on how to do this satanic observation of the crescent moons. In fact, Quran doesn't even call the crescent moons halal. The Quran calls them manazil. Manazil. It says وَقَدَّرْنَاهُمْ مَنَازِلَ حَتَّى عَادَ كَالْأُرْجُونِ الْقَدِيمِ. That we determined for moon phases, crescent moons, the crescents until it returned as the old date stock. The word for the crescent moons in the Quran is manazil. It has nothing to do with crescent moons. Nothing to do with halal. I apologize. Nothing to do with halal. This is nonsense. It's a satanic practice. Why don't you wake up, people? Why don't you repent? And why don't you return to Allah? Why are you in your satanic trance? What is Satan giving you? Satan has destroyed your lives. You just don't know it. You worship Akbar unknowingly. You worship Allah, that idol, the black stone, Al-Hajar al-Aswad, the black stone of shame. You associate that stone with your Creator. Anyway, there's one more thing I would like to share with you. And that is about the word shahr. I have discussed this extensively in this video. I really encourage you to watch this video. I will put the link down there in the description. It's the exact number of days to fast. I know you think it's about fasting, but I actually, in this video, I explain shahr and what it is. Shahr is a period in the Quran. It's a period of exactly 30 days. 30 days and nights, or 30 ayam. Quran makes it very, very clear. Again, if you follow the Quran, I explained, if you follow your own whims or desires, or somebody else's whims or desires, or the devil, or Akbar, then there's nothing for you to watch. But if you really want to learn the Quran, I explained that in this video, so please watch that, and you will understand that shahr has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with qamar or the moon. Nothing. It's completely different. So I think with this video, we can close this chapter, and I think with the past 3 videos, I have demonstrated to you that the whole observation of the moon has absolutely no Quranic basis. It's completely hadith based, and in fact there is no biblical basis for it either. There's absolutely zero biblical. Not only it's not Quranic, it's not even biblical. And even the books further down, if you go to the Prophet's book of Enoch and a lot of other books, again, you never find anything about moon observation and crescent moon. It's satanic. It's from Iblis, it's from Lucifer to make you err. That's all that is. It just devil wants to make you commit error. That's what it is. And inshallah, I will describe the whole calendar and how it is for you as well. Peace and blessings to all of you.